So you pull this lever twice and it engages full driving modes. It's slowing down, and now watch, it takes this corner, absolutely no worries. The driving aids and the autonomous driving in the Tesla is so advanced, and in fact, if our laws would allow it, it could drive from one destination to another without you even knowing. Hello and welcome back to the DoneDeal YouTube channel, and today we're reviewing something a little bit special. So what if I told you could buy a car that is over 400 brake horsepower, that has 7 seats, that's a saloon, that you only need to fill up every 4 or 5 or even every 600 kilometers? You'd say it's not possible. Well, today we're reviewing the Tesla Model S, and it has all of those things, and in this review we're going to explore them as well as some of its amazing autonomous features. So this particular one is a Tesla Model S 100D. Comes in at about 100 grand, but prices do start at about 83,000 euros. Now we'll talk more about the pricing structure later on in the video, as it does get a bit tricky and it tends to change out of nowhere. But nonetheless, let's go for a drive straight away. Let's not waste our time looking at the boot, looking at the back. We'll get straight into the fun part, and we'll see you on the road. Okay, so we're going to break up the driving into 4 different sections. Number 1, we're going to discuss the range. Then we'll obviously go into the acceleration because everyone likes to see that. And then, of course, we're going to talk about handling, finishing up with some of the driver aids and autonomous driving that the Tesla has to offer. So with the range, the claimed range is over 600 kilometers. Now, the important thing to know is that not every Tesla is the same. So some of the earlier ones would have been a 75 kilowatt battery, then I think it was 85, and then 90, and now they're all 100 kilowatt batteries. Now, what that basically means is it gives you more acceleration, but also longer range. So this particular one, like I said, will get over 600 claimed. Now, in real world, you'd be doing well to get about 500 kilometers, but at the same time, when are you ever going to drive over 500 kilometers in one sitting? And even if you do, there is fast chargers, and actually Ireland has one of the best infrastructures in Europe for fast chargers. You can charge them up, I think it does 80% of battery charge in 45 minutes. So if you pull in at a service station, you go into the toilet, you have some lunch, by the time you come back out, your car is ready to go and to chew up another 400 or 500 kilometers. So it is very impressive, and it's definitely the way things are going. We even see in cars like the Hyundai Kona now that are going 400 kilometers on one single charge. So it's very impressive, and the range definitely surprises people when someone gets in the car and they ask, how far can this go? And then you tell them, everyone always seems to be quite impressed. All right, so the acceleration on the Tesla Model S 100D. So disclaimer, we're on an open, quiet road. We're only going to accelerate to the speed limit, but we have to show the G-forces, as it will do 0 to 60 in just 3.8 seconds. So 3, 2, 1, and we're there. That is actually ridiculous how fast it is. Over 400 brake horsepower, over 660 Newton meters of torque, and you can feel every single bit of it going to all 4 wheels. What a boost. So we know it can get up to speed fast, but how does it handle? Well, I'm going to tell you directly, you can feel that there's a lot of electronic things going on, and it's not directly steering wheel to wheels. However, for such a heavy car with the weight of all those batteries, it handles extremely well. And that's because the batteries are all based on the floor of the car. So it will raise the height of, let's say, where your feet sit, but it keeps the center of gravity low. So when you come into a left-hand corner like this, you tend to not have too much roll, and it grips incredibly well as it's 4-wheel drive, because effectively you've got a dual motor, which effectively means you've got a motor to the front and a motor to the rear, and it keeps the car insanely stuck to the road. As we come into this right hand corner, you don't want to push it too much because it does have a lot of power, but it's incredible to feel that grip, and from such a heavy car, it's very impressive. One of the Tesla's party pieces amongst the crazy acceleration and of course the good handling is the autonomous driving and driving aids that it offers. So you can see on this screen here, it has basically a detection system where it can see any car around the place. But on top of that, It also has adaptive cruise control, and what's more is it even has crazy autonomous driving. So you pull this lever twice and it engages full driving modes. Now, I've chosen the wrong road to do this on, but it's slowing down, and now watch, it takes this corner, absolutely no worries, and it will drive like that all day long, and you could more or less sit back and go for a snooze. Now, I definitely wouldn't advise that, it's extremely dangerous, but the point is the driving aids and the autonomous driving in the Tesla is so advanced, and in fact, if it wasn't for the laws in Ireland, you could actually drive from one destination to another without doing anything. The Tesla could do it, but unfortunately European laws, and I think also laws in most of the world, prevent you from doing this. But it's only a matter of time, and it just shows that one day we will be able to sit back and go from destination to destination and not have to pay attention to what's on the roads. As you can see, the Model S is an extraordinary driving machine, but it also has a lot of cool and very practical features. So when we open up the boot, of course, it is electronic. Now, you might notice that straight away it is a hatchback, so you can actually see the whole way through the car. This makes it that bit more practical because you can quite simply fold the seats down. Now, there's a lot of other creature comforts in the boot that makes it a very useful daily driver. So obviously you've got this divider here so people can't see in. Then you've also got storage down here, and a massive compartment here that can actually also be used to store your feet should you select the 7 seats option. So basically this 2 extra seats go here, and there you have a 7-seater. So it is practical for the everyday drive, but when you get inside, it's also comfortable. When you open up the back doors, the theme of being a practical daily driver continues. So you'll notice the doors open very wide, and there's even ISOFIX points, however they are quite hidden away. When you sit in, again, it's really comfortable. Knee space is extremely generous. It's a little bit restricted when it comes to headspace, but it will absolutely suffice. And the other thing that's really cool is because there's no gearbox or transmission running through the car, it's completely flat here, which means 3 passengers can sit absolutely perfectly comfortable. There is one sacrifice you have to make, and that's because of all those batteries being on the base layer of the car, the floor is actually quite risen, so your knees sit fairly high, but it's not really the end of the world. It is in fact a very first world problem. In terms of your creature comforts, things that you can use, we've got a heater here. We will speak more on the heaters later. There's also a USB point, 2 USB points actually, but there is no center armrest, but again, that's absolutely fine. And a weird thing in the Teslas is there's no door cards, so there's nowhere to put a drink there, but you do have a drink holder here. As you walk up to the car, you'll notice that without touching anything, the wing mirrors will open, the door handles pop out, and it definitely gives it a feeling of class, and it shows how premium the Tesla is. As I sit into the car, I start to think, where should I even start? I think we'll go with, first of all, talking about the seats, driving position, and then we can mess around with a few more of the toys. So first of all, I'll just go to the memory saved David's position. You'll see the steering wheel, the seat, it all adjusts, which is very cool. Now, in terms of practicality, well, you have a glove box here, which is buttonless like much of the car. However, it's one of the few buttons there is, it's right there. Then the seats are obviously fully electronic, as you just saw, you can adjust. Then there is storage both in here. I find it sometimes can be quite tricky to open. You can put your wallet or whatever else. There's also a USB point and a 12-volt socket, and then you have a bigger storage section in here. On top of that, then you have 2 drink holders here, which are nice and hidden away. So there is no shortage of storage in this car. There is no door bins, but where it lacks in features and storage here, it makes up for it in the center console. On top of that, then you have the sun visor here with a little mirror and quite a sleek rear view mirror too. The other thing that we need to talk about is this incredible 17-inch display right here. There is no car that is quite as good and quite as technically advanced as it is in the Tesla. So you operate the majority of the car from here. Everything from your heating, your heated seats, your music, there's Spotify built into it. And then of course you can change all the settings on the vehicle. So you can change things like your lights, your suspension, your ride height. So you can go from very high to very low. You can put the car into a valet mode. So if you park it, they can only drive it at a certain speed and don't have access to everything. Then of course you've got Google Maps as your navigation, which is nearly impossible to beat. It's very, very good and it's very, very accurate, and it will give you all the traffic warnings too. So the infotainment system there is honestly the best beyond everything. If I was to criticize it in any way, is that when you are driving, it's so advanced, and if you hit a bump or whatever, you might hit the wrong button, and that could maybe be a little bit dangerous, but that's kind of picking out problems where they don't really exist. So normally at this point in the review, we discuss 3 of our least favorite and 3 of our favorite things about the car. But today we're going to instead give you 10 fun facts. Some are fun facts and some are actually quite sad facts. We'll start with some fun ones. So there is cameras like this situated all around the car to protect it from any vandalism. They also act as dash cams when you're driving. But for example, if you were to park in a car park and someone was to smash their door off you, you would actually have footage of them. The consequence of this is it uses about 8 kilometers of range per day, even if it's not being driven. Number 2 is the Tesla's key. It's shaped like a car. It's extremely light. It's quite cool. Number 3 is that some of the instruments, like this gear selector, are straight out of a Mercedes-Benz, which means they work. And that kind of leads me on to number 4, that unfortunately, because the car and Tesla have only really been manufacturing cars for 5 to 6 or 7 years, the build quality isn't quite the same. There can be a few small issues. I've heard stories of the windscreens having to be replaced because of a rattle, and you kind of, although it's very premium in here, you do get a sense that there's certain bits of refinement that could still take place. Fun fact number 5 is unfortunately a very sad fact, and that is that Tesla have messed around quite a lot with their pricing in the last couple of months. So to put it into perspective, this car today, the 100D, would cost you about 100,000 euros. Now rewind 6, 7 or even 8 months ago, had you have bought one of these cars at the beginning of the year, you would have paid about 128,000 euros for the exact same car. Now this price slash might be great for you if you're going out to buy one today, but had you have bought one 9 months ago, you'd probably be kicking yourself. And it just makes you think, could they do this again in another 9 months? Number 6 is that because this car doesn't actually have an engine, you can pop open this front bonnet here. And what this is actually great for is it's not connected to the car, because the car is a hatchback. So this boot is separate. So if you were, for example, to go down to your local chip shop and get some salt and vinegar crisps, you can put them in there and it doesn't infect the car with a smell. Now, one thing Tesla are very, very sure of is that you should never close this here in the middle and actually use both your hands like that on the outside. I don't know why, but for some reason they are very persistent in telling people to do that. Number 7 on our fun facts is an extremely fun fact, and that is that you can summons this car to you. Now you need the app and I don't unfortunately have it. However, if you're in a private car park and you don't want to go to all that effort slash you want to look really cool in front of your friends, you can actually summons the car to you and it will drive towards you with no driver in it, which is very, very, very cool. Number 8 is an interesting one, and again, it's probably a very first world problem, but if you're spending 100,000 euros on a car, you would like to be able to have a good heater. But despite putting the fan up the whole way, the heaters tend to not really blast the air out of you. And I know you can preset the car so it's warm when you get in there, but it would be nice to be able to have that hot air really pumping out of you, as it's really below par and doesn't actually warm you up very fast. Number 9 is that you do in fact join 2 cults when you buy a Tesla. Number 1 is obviously the Tesla cult. It's a very prestigious place. And number 2 is the electric car cult. And the weird thing is that people either love you or hate you. And people either love the Tesla or hate the Tesla. There's no middle way, like, oh, Tesla is okay. Doesn't happen. It's a cult. You're either in it or you're out of it. And number 10 is a very cool feature. So as you go in to my estate, there is quite a weird steep speed bump. Now, if I adjust the suspension here and I click go very high, obviously the air suspension raises, so I have more road clearance, and I can go over without touching the bottom of the car. But what's really cool is the car remembers that. So now if I put it low again, the next time I come into this estate, it will remember and automatically raise the suspension as I approach the entrance. Very, very snazzy. And fun fact number 11, as we're going to throw another one in there for good measure, is that this car is like a phone. And what I mean by that is you can update it like you would an app on your phone. So every 2 or 3 weeks, you'll get a notification on your Tesla app saying, well, your car's up for some sort of update. And it might be something to do with autonomous driving. It might be to do with the lighting. It could be all sorts of different things, and you just update it. And this continues after 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years of ownership, so that your car is always modern and always up to date with what the newest ones have. And I think that's very cool, and it looks after its existing owners. Well, there you have it. That is DoneDeal's review of the Tesla Model S. If you've enjoyed the video, then please leave us a comment. Let us know what you'd like to see us review next. Or of course, check us out on Instagram, as we try to put some behind the scenes stuff in there, and you'll always know what car is coming next. All in all, you have to say the Tesla is an absolutely magnificent car. It's not going to disappoint anyone who ever owns it, and I can't think of a car that is going to go 500 or 600 kilometers on one tank or one charge, let's say, that's got that much power, over 660 newton meters of torque, and that is actually going to be as practical as this. Otherwise, you're looking at something like an Audi or S6, or maybe a Range Rover SVR. Obviously, there's plenty of options there, and I'd love to know what you would spend €100,000 on. But for now, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next review.